you're in the future. You mean the past? Exactly.
Spiritual egotism. This can also be called spiritual narcissism. So what is it? It's when individuals or a person begin to identify too strongly with their spiritual beliefs or practices or perceived enlightenment, leading to a sense of superiority over others. I know better, I'm better than everyone. So this has many faces. It manifests in several different ways. It could be, and often is, done through seeking validation through spirituality, like using a certain paradigm, spiritual knowledge, or a paradigm or narrative or something that is a sure way to get admiration from others, to gain momentum, to gain power, to gain votes, to gain a name, recognition, or whatnot, whatever, whatever they're seeking. And usually it's power, fame, and name. And it also manifests in avoiding personal accountability. So people use it as a excuse to bypass real world responsibilities. When we're not here, we're not going to have, we don't have to be there for our children because the whole world is our children, sort of thing. And so they end up dismissing or bypassing their individual work as parents or as brothers, sisters, whatever that may be, so they bypass real world responsibilities and emotional work as well. So they will avoid going into the emotional body. They don't bring the emotions out because they perceive that as a weakness. So they bypass that completely. So it ends up being a problem, and it ends up becoming narcissism. And so this spiritual egotism, it's a very big topic, and it also manifests in different ways. So not just seeking validation and avoiding personal accountability, but also attachment to spiritual identity. So they end up having two personas. One is shown in public and the other one is behind closed doors. So they begin to define they define themselves solely by spiritual achievements. Like, I've done this, I've done that, I went to the Himalayas, I've done 30 days of this and this, or I've done a 7-day detox where I've had images of myself in, this alternate reality and this and this and this. But when it comes to speaking of their emotions here and there and their responsibilities and accountabilities and what they need to do here right now in this reality, they deny it, they bypass it really quickly because it's not them. They don't perceive it that way. And this phenomenon stems from a deep desire for meaning, for validation, for control, for fame, for a name. So ironically, true spiritual growth actually involves humility and openness and the ability to recognize that knowledge, that wisdom is actually an ongoing journey. It's not like a destination. You don't just know it and you sit upon your throne and preach everybody. It doesn't work like this. It's an ongoing journey. It's an ongoing unfoldment. So it's like, today I know this, tomorrow it may change because I've grown, I've expanded, I've contracted, or whatever, and therefore I have a different view now. It's okay to change your view. It's not like you're stuck in a paradigm and that you need to hold on to the views until the day you die. It's not like that. It's much more convoluted, I guess, but it can be simple too. The truth is quite simple, and I'll get to that in a minute. So instead of these people turning within to find meaning, they will resort to using image to gain recognition, in terms of their spiritual achievements. They may go like around the globe lecturing and feeding on other people's, lack of power, giving other people, giving their power to them, perceiving them as someone higher and someone who have direct access with God, with Source. So that becomes a trap and becomes very disempowering for the quote unquote followers. So this is spiritual egotism or egoism. What are some of the characteristics of a spiritual ego? So it can manifest in many different ways, as you know, often disguising itself as enlightenment, and enforcing and reinforcing time and time again a sense of superiority. So some of the characteristics include like the person feeling more awakened, more accomplished, defining their success by their spiritual achievements alone, seeking validation through spirituality groups, avoiding personal accountability, like bypassing real world stuff, and preaching rather than practicing. And that's a massive one. That's massive. That's constantly advising other people on the spiritual path while neglecting their own personal growth, while turning a blind eye on their own insecurities, their own issues, their own traumas, their own wounds, that we all have. So they use spirituality as a mask to cover up unresolved issues. That's if they do know them. Sometimes there's a lack of self-awareness that goes with that too. And they try to teach and preach awareness. That's the funny thing, is that they try to preach other people, be self-aware and this, but they don't have it within them. They BS deniers and bypasses ever. So recognizing these traits help maintain humanity and humility. Humility and humanity go hand in hand. So, I'm going to explore this topic a little bit deeper. I plan to just do a short clip, but I think this is a big topic. So I want to give some examples and give you some personal opinions and things like that. So I think it deserves to have, at least 25 minutes, 30 minutes. So, all right. So another face for spiritual egoism or egotism, which you can call narcissism, is also a savior complex, wanting to save others. So savior complex can be because one feels heavy responsibility to help others feel happy, because maybe they, as children, and I say maybe, but generally it is the case, they did not have a happy life that they would have liked. So instead they become increasingly empathic and feel the need to go out of their way, extend help to others, so others don't feel the pain that they felt. So this can be viewed from two lenses. One is that's an honorable thing, or the second one is, well, we're denying other people's experiences because you're trying to step in and, not wanting others to experience pain, when pain is actually a teacher. Pain transforms us. So anyway, the savior complex is when someone actually feels an overwhelming need, like I said, to save others, often believing they can fix people's problems. While this is an honorable and an admirable mindset, at the same time, this mindset can lead to burnout, can lead to unhealthy relationships, can actually unintentionally disempower other people, because you're trying to help them, you're trying to save them, and there's a fine line between helping and saving. People with savior complex may feel responsible for solving other people's issues, even when they're not asked. They feel like they need to step in and save the day. They struggle often to set boundaries, or healthy boundaries, And often in the process, they sacrifice from themselves. They sacrifice their own well-being because they overdo it. Because they get to a point where they can't say no anymore, and it just continues. So they say yes once, and then the second time it's like, oh, well, I guess I did it once before, I'll do it again. Third time it's like, well, I've done it twice before, I can't step out now because they already know that I can save the day, so I should just do it now and then bite the bullet and keep doing it. And then it just continues, and it gets to a point where if you say no, it becomes offensive to the other person who's asking, or maybe not asking. And then it's like, okay, this is just going to shake things up a lot, and I don't want to stir things up, so I'll just keep it going. And then often it becomes a sacrifice of the person who's giving, who's rescuing, a sacrifice of their own well-being. And also the savior complex they may or may not believe that they know what's best for the other person. Sometimes it's from a place of care, but oftentimes it's from a place of, I know better. I've been there, I've done it, you have to listen to me, I know best. So what that does, it takes away the other person's autonomy, the one that this savior's trying to, save. It ends up taking their own autonomy. They don't make their own decisions anymore because they're used to someone else doing it for them. So it's important to recognize that true support means empowering other people, but not taking on their burdens. Well, you can take some of the burdens that maybe simple things like if you help with a task or chores or something like that, it's okay. Especially if a person's going through a rough patch in their life, of course we need to be there. Of course we need to provide support. Like, that's the humanity in us. But to do that on an ongoing basis, take away their autonomy, disempower them. People with savior complex also can speak hubrisly because they think they are the chosen ones. They're excessively confident. They look down on supposed competitors. In their eyes, that what they do is all chosen for them, and only they can do it. Only they can do a great job. Everyone else is not capable. So we have a problem with spiritual egotism. It's a problem. And I'm bringing this up because it actually fascinates me how people with the most spiritual egotism and savior complex have the most confidence, while those that walk amongst us that are truly gifted, truly caring and loving and real healers, they're the meek, they're the modest. And sometimes you find them disempowered to the point where you miss their presence, where they're overlooked for what they can bring in terms of contributions. So most people struggle to assert themselves, limiting their influence. They're not out there self-advocating. They're not out there on the front lines and saying, hey, look at me, look at me. And there's nothing wrong with being on the front line. There's nothing wrong with leading a group, a movement, And sometimes it's not from confidence, it's a need. Like someone has to occupy that role, right? So I love confidence. I struggle with it too. And, I can be very self-aware of that inner struggle of confidence and how it fluctuates from like no confidence to, a healthy level of confidence. I like the fact that I can look within and see those things and see there's issues as well that need to be addressed, or maybe not addressed. Maybe it's just fine the way they are. I've learned over the years to build a trusting relationship with myself. So it's improved a lot since I started using my voice and expressing my passions and truths. So spiritual egotism is another thing. It's a combination of actually being overconfident the wrong way, obviously, and lacking inner security. So it pushes people toward claiming a role in order to cover up for their insecurity. So the main reason someone desires spiritual recognition is to convey the message that I'm better than you, I've done the work, and that sort of helps to heal a little bit of that insecurity. And they often wear the I am enlightened as a badge, as a decorative badge, because in their mind, there's nothing that they can boast internally about. So it's a bit sad. So how do we address this tendency when we can recognize it within ourselves? I admit at times I feel the urge to rescue. I think we're all guilty of that. I share messages with family in hopes of awakening them to something I believe is so important, so crucial. But I think the answer to that is in moderation, it's okay. And as long as there is an invitation for that, then it's okay. Just notice though, when it becomes a persistent need, when it takes up a lot of your mental space, because it becomes a very persistent, nagging thought. When we overextend by always offering unsolicited advice and pointing out the ways that we should live and how people should improve, and genuinely, even if from a place of genuine care, it may stem from the need to be right. It may be something within that's pushing us to be right. Okay, see, I told you all, I'm right about it. So it's an overreaching impulse. So just be aware of that. Now, if you're being called to be a way shower, a light worker, a healer, then lead by example. That's an honorable role, but lead by example. Answer when asked and refrain from overreaching to rescue someone because you perceive as false light, because it may interfere with their necessary experiences. They may have to go through it. Their personal journey of growth, whether you view it as positive or negative, it doesn't matter. After all, we have had to go through the same struggles, right? Metaphorically speaking, we had to walk through that fire. We had to walk through the ring of fire to transform the way we think. And yes, there are different versions of the truth. There are universal moral agreements. Crime, for instance, is widely recognized irrefutably as harmful. And, stopping it, if you see a crime, trying to stop or intervene is an honorable thing. But when it comes to someone's personal choices, what they put in their body versus what they don't put, that's when we need to recognize that that's their own choices. They have to go through their own experiences. They have to experiences, and life has to be reflective of how their minds work, because it's a reflection of that. Overreaching, especially in matters of spiritual egotism, can take many forms. Some preach forgiveness, some preach compassion or ascetic living without an invitation. Creating content to help others is honorable, but bombarding people with material despite their disinterest crosses into forceful intervention, in my opinion. We all know the law of one teaches us to honor free will and set boundaries, first for ourselves so we don't get burnt out in the process, and second, for others, respecting their path and choices. So overextending is a manifestation of unhealed feminine energy seeking to nurture because it may have lacked nurturing itself. So while this is a generalization, so it doesn't hold truth in all cases, but it mostly does, healing this aspect allows us to help more effectively, not by imposing on others, but by responding to requests, like genuine requests for support. By the way, I want to add that when I'm asked for help, when asked, I have a sincere dedication and willingness to take action. But there's a saying that put your money where your mouth is. So that rings true right now, because those who commit fully to their growth actually deserve the guidance, deserve an overreach sometimes, because they're fully committed. My core work is about helping people, but I've also learned to set limits, and that's a strong masculine trait too. So I say no when I feel like my efforts are unmatched by dedication and responsibility. So when people show up, but like half show up, it's like a no, that's it. A strong no. Okay, what else does spiritual egotism look like? It can look like claiming to have special abilities that others supposedly cannot reach. This has become a trend, and it's become so widespread, even within our Christic spiritual community, sadly. I've seen it far too often to ignore. This is precisely why Matt and I created a closed group to avoid toxic dynamics that arise when individuals position themselves as the chosen ones, claiming sole authority over complex teachings like Christic science and freedom teachings, and we know best and all of you don't know anything, and you need to come to me to ask for guidance. Such claims actually serve as an excuse to speak down to others, labeling them as controlling or dismissing their perspectives or calling them new age and calling them this and this and this. We've seen people blocked from groups in the chaos community simply due to a perceived, often imagined, by the way, threat. So how hypocritical is that? I'll give an example that, without naming names, but there is a couple that claim to be uniquely chosen to decipher difficult concepts and access high dimensional realities. Yet they struggle to regulate their own emotions and actions in the present reality. They can't have a mature conversation. They don't listen. They want to block. How can you claim mastery over higher dimensions when you don't have the skill, when you have not mastered the human experience, just being human, just having real emotions, just having real feelings, just recognizing them, just being there, just showing up with care and love and not having to think about, okay, what can I gain from this person? Or what is this person trying to do? Are they a threat? Are they this? Are they that? Like, that's fostering division, and that's spiritual egotism. So this contradiction is glaring. I find it really, wow, that's crazy. We are really tired of false messiahs and those who confuse true spiritual passion with ego-driven need for recognition and control over others. It's one thing to genuinely bring the knowledge out to light, to heal from and help others heal from a place of sincerity, from a place of love. And it's another thing to leverage special access for attention, influence, and authority. One other phenomenon that is quite evident and apparent is it seems that there is a process of unmasking, like the removal of a mask happening. So when we talk about spiritual egoism or egotism and the people that are unwilling to take that mask off and show their true identity, show their true intention, what's happening is right now I feel the energies are going to compel them to do so. It's a time where people's true intentions, beliefs, personalities will be revealed. We have Pluto in Aquarius, and that's a powerful period of deep transformation, but it's not about like transforming and hiding. It's about transforming and bringing it out to the light and showing what you've done and what you've been through, and showing those shifts, showing those changes, and being transparent. So these cosmic shifts often push the hidden truths to the surface. They actually bring it out, and it actually becomes harder for people to maintain the facade, even if they've maintained it all their lives. This is a time where they're going to be challenged. It's a time where they're going to unmask and be forced to unmask, and whether they like it or not. This is why this is a good time where spiritual egoism is going to be challenged. it's a great time. In terms of personal relationships, it also may shed light on the hidden stuff that is often not said, not shown, not revealed, and it's going to come up. There's going to be either refreshing for people who are embracing change, or it's going to be disappointing. And because some people don't want to know. Some people would rather the sweet lie than the harsh truth. In society, it could manifest, for example, as institutions being exposed, leaders, political leaders revealing true motives. It's a real collective shift in awareness. So, like I've always said, we don't become attached to planetary movements, but they do affect the collective. So it's good to be aware of what's happening, because how many times do we question what's happening and we have absolutely no answer? So the people who are controlled in that way, they're controlled by the external energies because they don't have the ability to be self-aware and become aware of their own actions and stuff. What happens is they become controlled. So this is the shift. They are going to be compelled to become aware. So it's a shift in awareness levels.